My name is David Clow. I am a program manager in what we call the Outlook ecosystem team back at Microsoft. This is a team that we take care of every extensibility aspect of the product. And today, in particular, we're going to talk about what we call now actionable messages. So anybody has heard that term before? No? That's fantastic. Hopefully, you're going to think that it's awesome. So let's just go ahead. I have plenty of good stuff, hopefully lots of demos, and even live coding, which is always challenging. We'll see how that goes. This slide, everybody in my org has it. It's just to give you an idea of all the extensibility points that are available in Office in general. There are three big buckets. The first one is what we call add-ins and web parts. So an add-in, you can think of that as your web app being hosted in our clients. And that means Word, Excel, PowerPoint, Outlook, OneNote, you name it. Pretty much everything is add-in enabled now. We used to call those modern add-ins at some point just because they're relying on modern web technologies. Web parts are essentially the same thing, but in SharePoint. That is not what we're talking about today. I am fairly certain there's another session that talks exclusively about add-ins. I don't know when it is, unfortunately, but I would certainly recommend it. Second bucket is web and devices apps. That essentially means REST APIs, right? We have a bunch of REST APIs that allow you to access calendaring information, contact information, email store in Exchange in the cloud. We also have SDKs so that you can embed some of the capabilities of other services like Skype for Business into your own application. So it's really APIs. And the last bucket, which includes connectors, and really I should have changed that title. I didn't want to do it because we're supposed to all have that same slide. But this is where actionable messages fit. And you can think of this big bucket as how can your application, your service, take advantage of the conversations that go on in various Microsoft clients, including Outlook and now Microsoft Teams as well. Anybody familiar with Microsoft Teams? Ever heard of it? You should give it a try. It's free. So anyway, actionable messages and connectors, that's what we're going to start with. This is that third bucket. So let me give you a brief history of how all of this actually happened. Back at Build, about 6-7 months ago, we announced Office 365 connectors. What are connectors? It's a way to push information from third-party services into Outlook groups. Any of you familiar with Outlook groups? Yes, I see a few heads nodding. Essentially, Outlook contains that model where you can create groups in which people participate. It's a little bit like Yammer. It's a little bit like Facebook. It's a way to collaborate. It's a place where people can collaborate. Problem with those groups is that usually they're private, so they're not easily addressable externally via an email address. Yet, when you work in these groups, you need information from the third-party services that you use. It might be GitHub, it might be Trello, it might be a bunch of others. So connectors were introduced to actually allow you to pull that information, or be pushed that information for that matter, into groups. One of the great capabilities here is because it's something that you do voluntarily, explicitly, you're going to be able to be very granular as to what information you want pushed in those groups. Right? So that's what connectors are. And I'm going to start immediately by, well, actually, I have one more slide before that. We have a bunch of connectors. We actually have more than what I'm even mentioning on that slide right now. But 6 months ago, we started with a catalog of 90-plus connectors, which is already quite big. You can see names that you will probably recognize in here that go from Trello, as I mentioned before, Asana, which is another system like Trello, all the way to Twitter. We also have Visual Studio and a bunch of others. You can consume those connectors in all clients, all Microsoft clients that support groups. So anywhere you have the groups UI, you will see those connector messages. And we've made that a platform so that you can implement your own connectors, right? And we've made it so that the messages that are sent by those connectors are designed using a very simple, what we call card format, which is expressed in JSON. So very lightweight, modern technology. It's very lightweight as well, and it always looks consistent. Like all connectors will have, you will recognize that it's a card. It's a very important thing because it actually feels like it's part of the product as opposed to being third-party content. That's especially important for trust issues, right? If I see something that I believe as a user is part of the product, therefore I think it probably can be trusted as opposed to third-party content. Would I click here? What should I do with that, right? So this is connectors. And let's start very quickly by showing you what connectors in groups are. And this is going to be super quick. I'm going to use 2 email addresses for all the demos in this session. There's my address, david@tradersinc.onmicrosoft.com, and then Shiva Kumar, who's my coworker. He's not here, but we'll pretend. And I'm going to do everything in essentially Outlook web app. So here, I'm going to go to Shiva's mailbox, and I switch to a group called Marketing FB. And in there, you can see that I get that MailChimp card, which is actually what we call a digest because it contains 2 little sections. And first, I'm going to just go ahead and show you how this was configured. So here's the connector configuration page where I can go ahead and decide what information I want to pull from which third-party service. So here I configured the MailChimp connector. I can show you very quickly how it's done. I just asked to receive a daily digest about my marketing campaign. MailChimp is that service that automates marketing campaigns and that is able to give you an information about the performance of your campaign. So this is all I've done here. It's a very simple connector. It doesn't have much granularity. It's just like give me the information on a daily basis in this particular case. And this is what it looks like. And you're going to see that design, like as we progress in this session, that same design is going to come back. It's always going to look consistent and familiar. Let's get back to the deck. All right. Since build, I was mentioning that a few seconds ago, we've introduced a bunch of other connectors, and this is not even complete because this slide I designed probably a month and a half ago, and since then we've added even more. So you have plenty of logos here. Maybe you know some of them, you're able to map, but I'm going to help you with these are the names, that goes again, Arc9, Constant Contact, even Google Analytics. So it's really something that we're pushing very hard on, and we're constantly working with partners and adding new ways to connect third-party services to groups. All right, but today what we want to talk about is actionable messages. So how does that fit in? Well, simply because we very quickly understood that there was something that was missing from those connector messages. It's great to get some information from those services. As you've seen in MailChimp, there was that little link at the bottom. I'm going to go back so that you can actually see it. There's that link here, and I can click on it, and it's going to take me to an external website. Okay, fine, but oh, is it not showing? Oh, sorry. Why is it not showing? Because I'm in presentation mode. So let's just switch back. See, I actually clicked. Clicked on that link here, and it took me to an external website. That's fine, okay, if I want to see more information. But sometimes, and we're going to see very concrete scenarios of that, sometimes what I want to do here, I get some information, and there's really a call for action in there. And I actually want to do it like immediately. And navigating to another site is not necessarily the best approach. So that's what actionable messages actually are. Essentially, we realized that if you were asked to approve something, wouldn't it be great if you could approve it right there and then instead of going to another website? if you had to comment on a GitHub issue, if you had to, I don't know, even accept an invite from a LinkedIn user, and plenty of other things. Wouldn't it be great if you could do it right there and then? That's exactly what actionable messages are all about. So essentially, it's that exact same little format that I was talking about a few seconds ago, and we're going to see more of that, don't worry. We're going to see exactly what it looks like. It's that format that we pushed a little further to include the ability for the sender to include actions, but not just actions. Actions with inputs. Because in some cases, like if you wanted to comment on a GitHub pull request or whatever, you don't want to just click a button, you have to provide information. So we make it possible to include inputs in those cards alongside buttons that actually perform an action.
So an example for me would be resource management, workload allocation for a project.
Yeah, so the resource management and workload allocation, absolutely. That could be
It's a big pool, and I got many projects, but I'm responsible for this project. And I need to know if is it 0.1, is it 0.5, how much time are you going to give me
Absolutely.
of your overall?
Absolutely.
Towards resource management.
Absolutely. That sounds...
I got to have something.
You're going to see, I'm going to show you exactly how it can actually streamline processes like considerably, in my opinion. But anyway, the goal here is to reduce context switches. I don't know about you, but at Microsoft, we context switch all the time as we're working on a daily basis. And it's painful, really. We do a lot of email at Microsoft. We're working a lot in Outlook and in Outlook Web App. And whenever there is a call to action that we have to go to that site, sometimes you have to re-authenticate. You have to find your way to the right page so you can actually do. Sometimes we just give up. This is okay, I'll do it later. And you know what happens when you decide to do it later? You don't do it, in many cases. Or you put a flag in your email and say, I'll get back to it later. Sometimes it just does not happen. Here, the idea is that you don't even have to think about all of these things. You just do it immediately and you're done. You can continue working on whatever it is that you were working. So enhanced productivity is really the goal here. So first, actionable messages. I was talking about connectors. We're making them available via those connector messages. All right? So still in groups, we're making it possible for connectors to push actions inside the cards. And we have some of our most popular connectors already enabled with actions. You can see GitHub here, where you can add a comment. You can even close an issue. And of course, you can still jump to GitHub. Because let's not fool ourselves. We are not replacing the third-party application here. That's absolutely not the goal. The goal is to make it easier for the user to take a quick action on the spot. Sometimes there's just no way to do a quick action. And you actually need to go there if you're going to review code, for example, on GitHub. I mean, you can't do it in a tiny card in Outlook. You have to go there. So those are quick actions that streamline your daily processes. Bitbucket, we've also, it's an equivalent to GitHub. We've added actions there as well. In the news and social realm, Twitter is also enabled with actions. You can like and retweet right from Outlook. Very quick actions. And of course, Wunderlist, which is a Microsoft application, is also enabled with actions. But we have a bunch more. Trello, I was mentioning before, and we're going to see more of that very soon. Asana, which is an equivalent to Trello. For those who don't know what Trello is, it's a very simple task management system. We're going to take a look at it immediately. And also Zendesk. That's the first one we're going to demo. So demo of that product, which is it's an escalation management system, essentially. There's an issue, and somebody needs to act upon it. So let's do that. Let's actually demo Zendesk. Exit this, and I probably opened it somewhere already. All right, so of course it's going to give me a hard time and not let me switch to. All right, I'm going to kill it and start again. And in the meantime, I'll explain how that works. Zendesk, there are really two roles in there. You have the person who owns the license to the product, and that basically lives in the product all the time. That would be me in this particular case. David is going to be the user of Zendesk. I spend most of my time in that product. And I also do not have much knowledge. Sorry, can't multitask. And I hope I have the right password. I don't really have the knowledge to actually solve issues. So I need the help of the people who know. So that's the other role in this particular scenario. And those people, we are going to say that they're Outlook Groups users, right? So they live in Outlook, and there is that group here called Help Desk that I'm going to remove all of these, or actually I won't, not right now. Plenty of tests. You've seen too much already. I'm ruining my presentation. So those people in the group will receive notification cards from Zendesk and will be able to act upon it. So let's do it. Go back to Zendesk, and I'm going to create a new issue. I'm going to say the mobile app broken. I need help. Right? So create that issue. And now what Zendesk has actually done is they've integrated a way in their own product to escalate an issue to Office 365, to a particular group in Office 365. So this is exactly what I'm going to do here. I'm going to select the Help Desk group, and here I'm going to repeat help and submit this. I'm going to wait a couple seconds. This is pushing information straight to their service. And I'm going to remember that password. I'm going to go back here. And I can see here there's a new activity button in the group. And indeed, I received the card from Zendesk. I want you to notice how fast that was also. The card arrived pretty much immediately. I'll talk a little bit more about the architecture, but that's what you can expect from those things. It's not like... Yes, this is an Office 365 feature, absolutely.
Only on the web, OWA, not on the Outlook client?
It will be very soon in Outlook client, and I should be able to show you the work in progress, so it's coming very soon. I really mean very soon. And eventually in all our clients, but we've been hard at work implementing it in Outlook for the last couple months. So the group received that card, and it so happens that here it's Shiva, my coworker, connected, and he happens to know exactly how to solve the problem. So what is he going to do? He's going to add an internal note. He just clicks that button. As you can see, something expands, and now you have that text area in which he can enter his resolution. He's going to say, install latest update, and just click the post button. And boom, that's done. And if I go back to Zendesk, you can see that it's already there. Again, I insist on the speed here. The architecture of that whole thing, we're not sending emails left and right. This is all done through talking from one server to another via HTTP posts. So we're talking directly to the third-party entity, and they're talking directly back at us. It's very fast. It's as fast as your network and the services involved actually are. So this is Zendesk. Do you see the power here? See how fast that was? I can even do it standing on a stage talking to people. Right? Just imagine when you're actually working on a daily basis how better that's going to make your experience. In my opinion, it's really fantastic. Back to the deck. Maybe. All right. All right, so actionable messages in connectors. Great, great. But connectors only work in groups, right? And groups are shared space. A bunch of people subscribe to those groups or join those groups, and they will all see all the information that is being pushed to the group. And it can become a little difficult to manage after a while. Not everybody is necessarily interested in everything that goes there. That's the reality. The reality is that users also don't just work in groups. We have a lot of people working heavily in groups at Microsoft but we also work in our own inbox a lot. Some of us, we don't work in groups at all. So the power of those actionable messages is completely lost to us, which is a shame. And of course, we already receive those notification emails in our own inbox. The moment you subscribe to GitHub or whatever service, you can be guaranteed that you're going to get those emails, and in many cases, you just don't want them. There's too much or there's too little in there. You don't get them the moment you need them. The way I treat them usually is I see that I received that notification from that particular service. I don't even try to decipher what's in there. And I just say, okay, that means that at some point, I'm going to have to go to that service, to go to their own web app and see what happened there. Right? The email, not very interesting to me. So what are we doing? You probably guessed that already. We are making connectors available for the inbox. And this way, as an individual user, you can decide to receive exactly the notifications that you want from exactly the services that you want in a granular way. And we're going to demonstrate that immediately with Trello. Right, so again, we put you in control here. It's not about receiving those third-party emails. It's you who decide what's interesting to you. So let's go ahead and jump into that Trello scenario that I talked multiple times about and that you've already seen a card for. But that's okay. That's okay. So did I open? Oh, yeah, I already have Trello here. So this is Trello. I have a board called, what is it called, my board? Demo, I think, or accelerators, whatever, I can't remember. And no, that's demo, the demo board. And in Trello, in each board, you add multiple lists, and you put your tasks in those lists. Up until very recently, it's just like a few weeks old, the way you'd mark a task as complete in Trello would be by moving that particular task, which they call card, from one list to another. So here in this particular example, from the backlog list to the completed list. Okay? It so happens that in the last few weeks, they've introduced a mark as done feature, and we actually see that we've already incorporated that into our connector cards. So the first step is, of course, I am interested in those Trello cards. So in my own account, and again, I'm going to have to connect. I am so sorry about that. Actually, that's probably not the right way to do it. I was supposed to have all of this open before to save some time, but Edge decided no? Did I not type this correctly? Yeah, on Microsoft. Yes, thank you. Okay, now I actually have two accounts connected, and I'm gonna, so let's just say I need to finish this presentation because well, I need to present it today, right? So let's imagine that I had a card in there called Publish the Deck. I'm just going to add that to my backlog. Now what's going to happen, and again, this is going to happen very quickly, in both accounts here, because it so happens that both David's account and Shiva's account, let me go to his inbox, we have both, oh my, wow. We have both configured, and I did it before because once I was bitten by that, I tried to do it live and it didn't work, but I'm still going to show you the configuration here. So in my inbox, I can go to, you've probably seen that, Manage Integrations, and we now have a unified UI for both add-ins, and again, I recommend checking out add-ins, and connectors for the inbox. So I'm going to click on the Connectors tab, and here I reach this, and I have that Trello configuration, which is here. It's already done, so I'm not redoing it. And Trello, as I was saying, it's very, very granular. You can choose exactly which events you're interested in. In my particular case, I've chosen the default ones, and I've also included the due date change, because that's part of my demo. Cancel this, get back to the message, and this is me here. I'm going to go back to my mailbox. I go to that card, and what I see is that I need to publish the deck. The problem is that I don't know when that needs to be done. Somebody asked me to do something, I have no idea when. So I'm going to add a comment to that card, and I'm going to ask, and say, when? I save this, and immediately, if it so happens that the person who created the task was still working in Trello, they can immediately see that I added that thing. Again, it's super fast. But let's just say that in this particular case, that person is Shiva, and Shiva is actually looking at Outlook right now. Because he's also configured the Trello connector for his inbox, he also gets the cards. And he gets the one that I just created because I asked when. And he said, oh, duh, of course, I need to set the due date. So he clicks the set due date, and you can see here we now have a date time selector. And actually, there's a little bug in this particular, this is a test server. You're going to see a handful of bugs, and I'll point them out. There's not supposed to be a time selector. It doesn't make any sense in the case of Trello. But Shiva is going to just pick a date, like tomorrow, which is a little too late, but anyway. Click Save. I'm going to go back to my inbox, and I get that updated card again. All part of the same conversation. If you see, all those updates on that card are all in that same conversation. So you can actually search for that, and you will find it all in that one reading pane. And so now that I do have the reading, the thing, it so happens that I'm done. So what I can do here is just decide to either move the card to the completed list, which I'm going to do immediately. And we're going to see that indeed, I'm going to prove it to you, it's in the completed list now. But actually what I can also do now is mark it as done and done. Again, extremely streamlined. I didn't have to go anywhere. I just got the information that I needed right there and then, and with just a couple clicks and maybe a few characters, I was able to complete a task collaborating with somebody else across two different systems. Right? Very, very powerful. Next up, whenever PowerPoint comes back, we are not including all our connectors for the inbox at the beginning, at least, just because there's plenty of them that just don't make sense in an inbox, right? We wanted to only surface those services that we believe have a value add for individual users. So those are our launch connectors. All the ones that have a star are actually actionable. And we will introduce new ones progressively over the next few months. And of course, I'm not going to stop there because even though connectors are great, there's one more thing. I still have to configure those connectors myself. So it's great when I want granularity, but in some situations, like I'm being asked to approve of something, this is part of a business process. This is not something that I can opt out of. This is part of my job. So it wouldn't make sense to require that I install or configure a connector so that I can do those things. So what we're doing is we are making actionable messages available over simple SMTP. You're going to get an email, and in there, you're going to get a card with actions. So I can hear you say already, okay, that defeats the purpose. You're going to get spammed again. No, you're not going to get spammed because it's not the body of the email, and therefore we can have control over it. And therefore, we only allow services that have registered with us, that have presented their scenarios. Essentially, we validate just like any app is validated on any app store. Right? We just surface scenarios that we know are high quality and that we know will provide great value add. Plus, of course, each and every company can decide which providers they want to enable. It's not like we decide for everybody. So you have control over which third-party services are going to be able to push actionable messages to directly via SMTP. So zero configuration from the user. Like that's ultimate power. You get those things, you can take actions, you didn't have to do anything. It just happens. Of course, it's still consistent. We're going to see those same cards and everything. I talked about the safety and the security of it. We're not in the business of getting you more spammed or opening other security doors. And there's also a great mechanism, which for that matter is also available via connectors, but this, I'm going to demonstrate it. This is like ultimate power for those things. As a result of somebody taking an action on one of those cards, the third-party service can actually completely refresh the card. Like it's a completely new version to represent the new state of the object that was acted upon, right? Or to include additional actions, or to remove some of them, or to change some of them, just because now there are more things to do or fewer things to do. So we have a few partners, more coming very soon, that will already push actionable messages directly to people's inboxes. Microsoft Flow, we're going to see a demonstration of that right now. TinyPulse, which is a quick poll system that is becoming quite popular in many companies. We've used it at Microsoft. SAP has also worked with us a few months ago, getting their own connector enabled with their connector, pushing actionable messages to users' inboxes. And I was saying there's going to be more very soon, but as of now, I want to finish that presentation with only demos, and there's going to be some coding as well, because enough slides, although there are more after the demos if we have time. So let's just go ahead. We're going to do three things. First, I'm going to do that flow demo that I just talked about. Then we're going to code live something that sends an actionable message to an email address, see how that goes. And then we're going to look at a more concrete scenario, which is a simple survey. I should have called it a simple poll system, equivalent to TinyPulse, except that it's a demo thing, so it's not production ready, obviously. So let's go, and hopefully I won't have problems with connecting. The Flow Center, so anybody familiar with Microsoft Flow that was introduced a few months ago? I see one person. Microsoft Flow, anybody familiar with IFTTT? So Microsoft Flow is IFTTT on steroids. Essentially, it's our offering that enables you to connect one service to another. Essentially say, if something happens there, generate an action there. That didn't work. That is not cool, because it worked yesterday. It's okay. I mean, if we can't do this one, let me try here. We'll see how that goes. Okay, we're good. So in this demo, we're going to use Microsoft Flow, SharePoint, and of course actionable messages to automate a vacation approval system. Essentially, somebody's going to go to a SharePoint list, going to create a new vacation request item. I'm going to do that. That's going to be picked up by Microsoft Flow. There's already a flow configured. I'm not going to impose that on you. It's not a little complicated, I think, for a demo. But what that flow is going to do is say, OK, a new item was created in this list. I'm going to send an approval request to the address specified in the request itself. And then the recipient of that particular message, which will be actionable, will be able to approve or reject with a single click. So let's do it. I'm going to create a new item here. And I'm French. It's been a while that I haven't gone home. So it says going to Paris. I'm gonna go there tomorrow, and I'm going to come back in 6 months. Oh, if only I could do that, huh? And again, I'm going to have Shiva. Shiva is everywhere. And honestly, I do not know which of the two is the right one. Here, is there the email address showing? At Traders Inc. That one. OK, so this is my vacation request. I'm going to hit save. So in this particular case, it so happens things are going to be less fast because Flow is actually has a polling mechanism for that list. So the Flow instance runs every so often and polls, and so it's possible that it's not going to happen immediately. Maybe we're going to be lucky. So Shiva sent the approval vacation request. No, I sent the approval vacation request to Shiva. And yeah, unfortunately, it's not there yet. So we'll get back to it after. Let's go to the next demo where I'm going to actually do some coding. I'll prove to you that it works later. All right, so coding. Let's say you have decided that those actionable messages are so cool that you could leverage them in your own business processes inside your own company, because you don't have to rely on us. Inside your own company, you can send actionable messages to anyone you want. Of course, you can disable that thing altogether. The admin can do that, but you can already do it. There's no blocking issue. So let's do it. So I've created a sample application. It's a WCF application, which absolutely does not matter. It has just a window and a button in the center that's going to send an email to a particular address. This is the code behind. And to do that, I am going to use the Exchange Web Services Managed API. If you've ever heard of it, Exchange has an API. It's the SOAP API for Exchange. We also have a REST API. I decided to use this one because I worked on it. And I actually created the .NET API that talks to it. So I know it really well, which is going to help for this particular demo. But you can do it over REST just as well. So let's go ahead. I'm going to create an Exchange service. If I put the X, I really can't type, right? Exchange service, call it service, and say that it's a new Exchange service. I'm going to put that back here. So what I need to do with that service is set its URL, which is going to be a new URI. And in there, it's an Office 365 feature that's going to be outlook.office365.com. And the address for EWS is /EWS/exchange service.asmx. That's the address. Right. I'm going to set the credentials of this. I'm going to access a particular account. So credentials equals new web credential. This is a type that's declared in this particular API. And I'm going to say that I am the one sending the message. It's me, and my password should be in globals.password. So I don't want to show it to you. Right, so that's just connecting me, and I don't know why this is, it doesn't like this particular line. Live coding is hard. Oh, it's because it's a plus. With an equal, it should work a lot better. All right, so now I need to create a message. So email message, new email message, message.subject equals test. Let's just not be greedy. Message.toRecipients.add, and I'm going to send that to Shiva again. At tradersinc.onmicrosoft.com. That's going to be my sole recipient. And of course, now I need to set the body of that thing. So how do I send an actionable message? Technically, I can do this, message.body equals whatever. But that's not really going to work, right? So let's just actually consult the documentation. Documentation for actionable messages is available at dev.outlook.com/actions. Very simple. And here I'm just going to go to Getting Started. I'm going to assign connectors via email, create an actionable message card. Okay, we're going to take a look at that very soon. Sending actionable messages via email. Okay, so that's what I'm interested in. So I need a card. Okay, we'll look into that very soon. And then, I need to enclose that card into a script element. And this is what my body should look like. Okay. Great. I'm going to do exactly that. So I took a shortcut here. I created the HTML body of my card, right? It's here. And I've also included that script element with a substitution here. So I'm going to inject a card in there. But what card? I mean, I need to design a card to actually get something that looks like anything. Well, it so happens that we have a tool that goes with all of this that's called the Message Card Playground. Message card is the name that we have given to this particular card that represents an actionable message. So on that site, which is available to anyone, messagecardplayground.azurewebsites.net, you can actually play with the format. So this is what it looks like. This was a little bit complicated because by default, it shows everything that can be done, right? But we're going to pick something else. There are a bunch of scenarios here. And since we've already looked at Trello, I'm going to go take that example, the Trello card created. Actually, you know what? Let me do it a little differently because I made a change right before, and it's not picked up because Chrome has his cache. So in an in-private session, it's going to be a little better. Let me go back to that Trello card. So yeah, okay, a Trello card, that very much looks like what we've seen before. And actually, that's exactly how it's done. This payload that you can see here is exactly what is being sent, either via a connector, or it could be sent via email. So I'm just going to go all in and copy this, go back to my app, and I'm not going to paste it into the code because otherwise I would have to escape all the quotes and so on. So the way I'm going to do it is I'm going to put that in a text file, and I'm going to load the content of the text file into the body of and I'm going to go to that card.json here, which already has something, but I'm just going to replace with what I took, which is exactly the same, because obviously I'm not going to do something that I have not rehearsed before. So I have that content here. Now I'm going to go back here, and what I want to say is, okay, my body is HTML. So it's going to be a message body. The body type is going to be HTML. And the content is going to be file.readAllText. And I believe I have to go back. No, actually, I don't. Card.json. Right? And of course, it's a new message body. And the last thing that I need to do here is just say message.send. So hopefully that's just going to work. Let's try. No, it's not going to work because I have an error in here. My goodness. Need to pass the service instance. Hit start again. I'm going to click on the button, and if I'm lucky, and I'm not, that is not the location of the file. So that's probably what I thought I had to do. Go back 2 levels, because that's how the project is done. This time, hopefully, we're going to be good. Are we or not? It's supposed. Oh, I didn't show a message. So well, we should have 2 messages. So Shiva should be the. Where is my? Here. And indeed, you know, I just. And I don't. I have a cheat sheet anyway, so we're gonna use that. I did not. That's absolutely true. I did not. All right. So should I try and do it or use the cheat sheet? You choose. Cheat sheet. Let's be quicker. Okay. That's the other demo. Yeah, my body. Technically, I need to load the body here. Let's do it. You know what? Let's do it. I'm going to do a string dot format. Here, I'm going to pass, again, file dot load, read all text, but this time it's going to be the body, HTML body.txt, and now I'm just injecting this thing. Where is my end? And if I add a parenthesis, it should be okay. All right. Let's cross my fingers. Click that button again. Let's go back there. Awesome. Let's see how easy it was actually send a card. I hope that I conveyed that thing correctly. It's a lot easier when you do it on your own computer without anybody looking. But it's just a matter of sending a message. But you're going to tell me, there is no way in the world these could actually be functional. So they are functional to the extent that, you know, you can pick the date and all of this. I mean, that works. But of course, if I actually try to run an action and click OK here, it's going to say the action could not be completed because there is nothing backing up that particular card. In the model that I used, if you look, well, actually, that was here. Where's my other? Here, I actually defined the action. So let's take a quick look at the format. You define fields using, it's very strongly typed. Here you say, this is the title of the card, and this is what appears here. You know, if I change it, you can see that it changes. Then you can decompose your card into multiple sections, and each section will contain what's called an activity, which has an image and 3 fields on the right of the image. It's going to have a text field. It's going to have a list of facts, and you can even include an image in there, right? Actually, a collection of images. And then at the bottom, and this is all done here, like the activity with the image is here, the collection of facts is here, the text portion is here, sorry. And those are the actions. And each action is defined by its type, and then stuff that define what needs to be visible on the screen. So an action that takes the value of at least one input and has additional buttons to actually send those values to a third-party service is called an action card. And in an action card, you define its name, which is what appears in the UI. Then you define the inputs, which can be date input, text input, or multi-choice input. Multi-choice being a combo box. And then you define the actions. And in each actions, here I haven't defined those actions at all. I've just, like, this completely boilerplate thing. There's no way this could work. But technically, I have to set the target to the actual target of a third-party service, then set the body of that action to actually contain what I want to send to that particular service. I don't even have to have a body for that matter. If everything fits on the URL, that's fine. And that will actually make it work. And we're going to make something work after that. I'm not going to leave you hanging like this.
You know, one of the things I'm thinking about this is designing the card that will allow a manager to approve $100,000 orders or more, right?
Yes.
So it's a company that receives orders from customers and has to be approved by management. And so they would get the card and would say, approve, yes, or deny. And if they click either button, it launches a stored procedure in the SQL Server database. So this is a custom app designed with SQL Server.
Yeah?
And the .NET application submits a card to Outlook.
Yes.
But how does the SQL Server initiate the card?
We'll see that right after.
Okay, good.
So the question is, this is not realistic because it's just a client application sending an email. This was just the 101. Just to prove to you that just sending an email with the appropriate body results in a card being displayed in the message. As simple as that. But now, how do you actually make something work with a backing service, which is really the only way to have something interesting? We're going to see that right after we actually have a demo of that. And hopefully, we'll have enough time to do it. So anyway, you define those actions, and that's it, action card. And to actually post something to a third-party server, we have an action type called HTTP post, and boom, you're done. I mean, I'm going to pretend that it's super easy because actually it is. If you refer to the documentation dev.outlook.com/actions, you will have some examples of that. It's really straightforward. You have a third-party service that accepts a certain type of payload. You just set up the markup here to emit that payload. That's it. There are questions around authentication, and that's actually a very interesting aspect of it. And there are multiple ways this can be handled. You can have either an OAuth flow that happens just in time, as in when the user actually clicks the action, we're going to ask him to authenticate against the third-party service. Or you can do something that is more streamlined and completely seamless using what we call limited use token. You can use whatever name you want for that. But essentially, it's your service. Whenever the service pushes that card to somebody's mailbox, they already know who that person is. So essentially, in the URL, in the callback URL that is in the payload, you embed a token that represents the user, right? This way you can, when you receive that service code, say, okay, I know who that is. And at the same time, of course, you will want to validate that that call actually came from Outlook or Outlook Web App, essentially a Microsoft email client. And we have a way for you to do that. We actually send a certificate that you can validate. So it's secure from end to end.
What's the experience for someone who opens on a webmail viewer or mail viewer that's not Outlook?
We're going to get to that. That's a very good question. What's the experience for someone who actually does not, who's using a client that does not have support for those cards? We're going to look at that. For now, I'm actually going to go back real quick to my approval request because I actually want to show that it worked. Where is it? Here? Well, or maybe it doesn't work, you know. Maybe today I'm unlucky. Okay, let's just say I'm unlucky. We'll put it to rest and get back to our example. If you've noticed, there's another thing that actually did not work. I'm going to point it out. It's the image here. It's showing in the tool, but if I go to the client, it's not. And there's a good and bad reason for that. It's good and bad at the same time. The reason is that this image, currently, we cannot just dynamically load based on its URL. It has to be transformed into an inline attachment to the email. And right now, we are asking you, the sender, whoever the sender is, to do that. But that's not a good experience, and it's going to change very soon. So very soon, you won't have to deal with that anymore. I actually have code here that I'm not going to write live. I intended to do it, but I'm not going to do it. I have code in my cheat sheet here. I'm going to close that app. That actually does that. With the EWS Managed API, the API that I'm using here, it's actually fairly simple. Again, if I want to send the image with the payload with an image, I do exactly the same thing. I set up the service, I create the message, then I create a file attachment. I pass in essentially all the bytes from the file. So here I just made a copy of the file in my project directory, but I could have loaded the bytes from the web. It doesn't matter. What matters is that I need the bytes. And then I set the attachment content ID to whatever I want, essentially, an ID that can be recognized. That's how you say that attachment can be referenced from the body, or in our case, from the card. Right? The card, you need to put something in there that actually matches the ID of a particular attachment. Then you have to say, well, you don't have to, but you'll want to say that the attachment is inline, which makes it invisible in the attachment area of the message, but only in the card. If you don't set that, you're going to see the attachment, in the attachment area. The user will be able to download it. Up to you, after all. And then you have to say what content type it is. So you create that, and then in the card, essentially, we send the exact same card, but this time around, you have to do a substitution. So I called this activity image, so that's going to be the ID. I'm going to go back to the card, and instead of the URL here, what I need to do is just say that's CID activity image. Right? That's all it is. And I'm going to go here. I'm going to remove all of that and simply call globals send with image. I'll try again real quick. Okay, this time I do have that little confirmation dialog. Go back to Shiva's. As you can see, now I do have the image. So it's a little inconvenient. It's not that big a deal when you've done it once, but it's an inconvenience. It's going to go away. We're going to take care of that on the server side automatically, so you don't have to do it anymore. Now, okay, we've said that there's no way, those actions are not functional. I want them to be functional. So let's jump into an actual example that has all the components that would be necessary in real life. And what that means is I need a service. That service needs to be recognized by our side as being trusted. which is, you have to reference it with us, register it with us, whitelist it with us, if you want to call it that. And our infrastructure is going to make calls to that service, and it can only make calls over HTTPS for security reasons. So that means that the service that you expose on that domain of yours needs to have a valid certificate. And so those are all the components. Now, in terms of architecture, I should have had a slide for that, but hopefully it's not that complicated. In terms of architecture, there are three parties involved. You have the client, Outlook, you have the third-party service, and then you have the actionable message middle tier. And this acts as some sort of a proxy, if you want to call it that, where whenever Outlook, the user makes an action from a card in Outlook, the post is actually being made to that middle tier, which can take care of authentication just for you, provided that the user has already authenticated, meaning that if you had an OAuth flow, the token is going to be saved on the middle tier so that next time there is no need to actually do it again. That middle tier is also going to take care of embedding a certificate that can be validated on the service side for security reasons. And then, of course, we'll relay the post to the service, which will respond back, and then that response will be forwarded back to Outlook. Okay, so that's how it works. And that service, as I was saying, will never make an HTTP call. It's only going to make HTTPS calls against a third-party service, which is why you need a valid certificate. The scenario that I'm going to show you now, and I'm going to try to do some live coding, but very little because it's way too complicated to code all of that on stage. It's a very simple survey scenario where I implemented a very simple client-side app that actually creates and sends a new survey. And then people are going to receive that in Outlook, and they're going to be able to respond from Outlook. And beyond that, they're going to be able to see the current statistics for the survey. So let's get to it. I don't know why it keeps on closing that thing. All right, so my service is a WCF web service. I just created it with new web service, very simple, it's .NET, but of course you can use whichever technology you want. It's absolutely no requirement around .NET, WCF, or whatever. It just made it easier for me. And it's hosted on Azure. It's on azurewebsites.net, and I mapped it to a domain that I purchased, which is actually mine, because that's all I had before. And I also got a free certificate from zerossl.com, if you're interested. It's not very safe, but it's an actual certificate, and for the purpose of this demo, it actually works. And I mapped, so the service will be exposed at survey-service-demo.snutig.com, S-N-U-T-T-I-G.com. And that's going to map to the same survey-service-demo.azurewebsites.net. And then my service is there, and that's the crux of the demo. That service does everything. And that's the case everywhere. If you want something interesting, an interesting scenario, there's always that central piece, which is the service. So let's start by sending a survey. I'm going to expose here this one method in my service, which is called send survey. And it's going to take a request, and this request is defined as is. First, a survey object that we're going to look at, and then a list of recipients separated by a semicolon. The survey is defined like this. I'm going to pass on the method right now, but essentially it's a bunch of properties, and I went to the trouble of just generating an ID for that survey so it could be recalled later on. I will probably enhance that demo for further, speeches. But essentially, a survey has a name, it has a question type, which is an integer. We're only going to take a look at one. But question type 1 would be simple text, so it's a plain text response, and type 2 would be a combo box with multiple choices. That's what we're going to demo. The title of the question, this is the question as it's going to appear in the UI, and the question choices are the choices that need to appear in that combo box, again separated by a semicolon. So I define the contract of my service like this. Now what I need to do is implement that contract. And again, I'm not going to write code here. I'm just going to show you the code that I've already written. because it also involves SQL Server. Sir, you were mentioning that before. There is a SQL Server component in there. This is where I store my surveys and the responses. So what I want is to go to that send survey method. So this is the actual implementation of the web service call. And what this does, creates a response which is equal to survey.createNew, and survey.createNew opens the database, inserts a record in there, catches an exception if necessary, and generates a new ID that it assigns to the newly created survey. So that's all that does for now. It's really an insertion into a SQL Server and populating an object. That's all it is. Now back there, after that, if I see there's no error, I'm going to split those two recipients into an actual collection, and I'm going to ask my survey to send itself. So here, this is the method that sends for collection, but we're going to take a look at what really matters, which is sending the survey to one particular recipient, and that's done here. So here you will see that I'm not actually pasting a payload that I have in text or anything. What I have done, was just a choice that I made, is I designed a little object hierarchy that represents the card. It's very simple with .NET because I just create a card object. Where is it? And I stamp, the data contract, data member stuff. That takes care of serialization and deserialization for me. And it allows me to construct those cards with an object model instead of pasting text. But other than that, it's the exact same thing. In the end, what this generates when it's serialized is the exact same cards as what we've been looking at before. And we'll take a look at that in more detail. So it sends to that to recipient. Where is it? No, where did I go? There we go. So it creates the card, sets some properties. I'm going to take, you're going to see how it looks like. But essentially, I'm just defining that card in an object model here. That's all it is. I'm creating some facts, an action card, just something that looks good that people will be engaged with. But that's also really simple. You'll see exactly what that looks like. Defining the inputs, et cetera, adding the actions. Here, this is the one action that I'm interested in. It's going to take the value of a combo box input and it's going to post that to a service. This is exactly the request that is going to be sent by Outlook to our middle tier server. And it's defined using those properties in the payload. The name of the HTTP post action, its target, its body, and we have to specify the body content type, which in this particular case is JSON. Sir?
So with using this, is everything that's being received from the client always going to be a post? Because my question here is, this is a great use case if somebody's trying to send immediate information on their cell phone. But like most line of business apps that I'm working with, you're behind a VPN. How are you going to get through that? And that's kind of the reason I'm asking.
You're going to have to open some doors.
So there's no way to do any of these actionable responses via SMTP. It's all using HTTP.
It's all post, yeah, absolutely. It's all post. That said, again, you're posting from the client to our middle tier, right? So I don't know if that has any. It's our middle tier that actually talks to the third-party service. So you don't have to authorize you don't have to be able to talk directly to the third-party service over VPN. You can actually talk only to our middle tier, which is a Microsoft domain. So this is the action as it's going to be posted, and the response is going to be very simple. It's going to include, actually, we won't even care about the response in this particular case. So let's just do that. We have coded that thing. It's there. I actually already published the service to Azure. And what I'm going to do is use that little app that I created just to send the service. I'm just going to hit that. The service is implemented exactly like this. It says success. OK, great. I like that. I'm going to close that for now. I'm going to go to the inbox, and here it is. Here is what we've received. So this is the card, right, that I wanted to design. You're not limited to that. You can do whatever you want. It's just title, then the question, a combo box, and the submit button. It has a few options, right? And here what I've decided to do is to include the actual payload in the body so that we can take a look at what it looks like. Go back there. So this is what was generated by my little object model, which is exactly the same. Well, actually, I have a solution to that too. Test JSON. Boom. Right, so this is the card, and again, this is the action as I showed it to you before. So this is great, but there are a few things that are wrong here. First, if I actually take the action, I'm going to submit, and it tells me that it could not be completed. Obviously, it can't be completed because I did not expose the right method for that. And second, the other thing that's wrong is that, okay, I wanted to show you the actual payload, the card, in the body, but technically I don't want that to be displayed. So we're going to fix those two things, and we're going to start with the body. I'm going to go back to Studio here, close this. No. And in my actual card here, what I'm going to do first is going to say that I want to hide the original body. So what you can do in a card is say, I want the original body, the body of the email, to actually be hidden because it's not complementary to my card, because it's redundant information. You know, I don't want it to be displayed. That said, when you have a down-level client, like Gmail, for example, that does not support actual messages, the body is very important. So what you need to do, here I included the serialized version of my card in the body, but what you need to do is something like your email client doesn't support actions. Right? And on email clients that do not support actionable messages, they're only going to show the body, therefore this. Of course, you can put something completely different here. I'm just trying to do something quick. And in some cases, the card and the body are complementary. You can think of an expense report, for example. The card would be a way to approve the expense report, with the body actually being the detail of the expense report. There are plenty of possibilities. So I've just added that. I fixed the body thing. But now if we go back to my action here, I'm making a call to the submit response method, which is not exposed in my service. So I'm just going to expose it. And to do that, I am going to go to my cheat sheet here. And I'm going to copy it. And I still have 10 minutes. We should be able to finish. Submit response. Paste it here. So now my contract is there, and it so happens that, as you can imagine, I already have the code that submits the response. So this time I actually need to publish that thing again to Azure. Otherwise, it's not going to take advantage of the changes that I just made. If it fails now, we're in a bad shape. And it's taking way longer than usual. I don't like that. Come on. Of course, done 15, 20, 50 times right before, but oh, there we go. Awesome. So the service was published, updated. So if I go back now to that same email client, that thing that did not work before, I don't need to send another survey. Now the method that's backing the post that I'm making by clicking that button should be there. So I'm just going to go ahead and say vegetarian and submit. So it tells me that the action has completed successfully, which is great. And for that matter, I don't know why the body is still there, because I did change that, and it should not be that. It should not be there anymore. We'll find a way for that. So it says that the action has completed successfully, which is better, I guess, but it's not ideal. What I really want to know now is what are the current statistics? I mean, I responded. Maybe I want to know how other people have responded. So instead of just relying on that default mechanism. This is a default mechanism that each client implements, run the action, and when the action is completed, they show that little area that we call the info bar that says that's what was done at what time, right? And it also says who did it if it was not you. And that's especially important in groups. But that's not what I want. What I want is to refresh the card. So let's do that. Let's go back to the service again. Did I not save something, and that's why the...
You send another card after the first one, you just use the first card again.
I don't know. This should be the one. I mean, we'll see. Maybe I forgot to save something. Well, anyway, now I actually want to have a card refresh. So what we need to do? There's that submit response method that we just exposed, and that the card just made a call to. Well, that submit response post can return a card if it wants. So I'm just going to go change, and that's also why I created an object model for this thing, because it makes everything a lot simpler. Instead of returning void for this, I'm actually going to return a card, right? I'm going to go back there, change this to card as well, since it's the implementation of the interface. But now I need to return something. And what do I return? I'm going to return what's been generated here, which is generate stats card. And here I need to pass the survey ID, which happens to be in the request, survey ID, and the recipient, which is the user ID, which is also in the request, because that's how I designed that whole thing. User ID. I'm just doing this. There's one more thing, though. Even if your post returns a card, it will not be displayed until you tell us that there is a card in the body. Because what we wanted to allow was for any service to be used as is without modification if that's what you choose to do. And existing services, they will probably not return a card. That's not how they were designed. So you can choose to update your service so that it returns a card, but you also have to add an additional HTTP header in the response that says there is a card in the body. And as you're going to be able to see, it cannot be more explicit than, no, that's not it. It's in here. It can't really be more explicit than doing this. That's the way of doing it with WCF. But essentially, you add that card update in body colon true in the payload. Now I've updated all of this. Hopefully, I'm going to rebuild just in case. All right, publish again. Hopefully, it's going to be faster this time. Come on, you just did it. Good. Okay, this time we're going to want to start fresh with another survey. Send it. Go back there. Survey has arrived. It's here. Oh, obviously, there was something that I didn't save before, because you can see that the body is not in there anymore. And we're going to take a look at it in a client that does not support that whole thing, if you want, so that we can... I'm going to pick an answer, hit submit, and boom, my card has been refreshed. And now it's something completely custom that does not look like what it used to be at all. It just recalls that this was a survey named blah, that I responded that, and the current statistics are this. But let's go one step further, because I still have 2 minutes and 40 seconds. And the last step here is to say, okay, now I want to make that refresh button work, because there might be multiple people answering that survey, and if I wanted to know what status this thing is in. So again, I'm going to go here, go to my cheat sheet, and there is another thing here called refresh stats. I'm going to add it to my contract. I'm going to go to its implementation, which is here, and the implementation here is extremely simple. It does the exact same thing. It just includes the header because that's necessary, and it just returns again, a new version of that exact same refresh card that I sent before. And of course, I need to make that a card. And I don't know if I did it here. No. I planned to have more steps, but I didn't know how much time I would have. So this is it. I'm going to, again, rebuild that thing to be sure that works. Okay, publish. Almost there. Come on. Come on, come on, come on, come on. Okay, okay, okay. All right. Let's just, again, start fresh, although I don't need to technically because I already have a... Okay. So fresh survey. It's here. I'm going to respond gluten-free this time. Click submit. Now I'm going to go to the other mailbox because it so happens... Where is it? It so happens that I'm also sending those surveys to another address. I'm going to go to that same survey, and I'm going to respond halal. Click submit. That's done. And you can see here the total responses are 2 because somebody else already answered. And so if I go back here now and hit refresh, boom, it gets refreshed. As simple as that. Those are just HTTP post calls made to a third-party service, and that third-party service returns a new version of the payload in which you put whatever you want, including additional new HTTP post calls. Extremely simple, in my opinion, and the power that it just brings to Outlook, where now you don't have to leave the client to perform those very simple actions, I think is awesome. I'm sorry I was not able to demonstrate the approve-reject scenario with Microsoft Flow, but what you can expect, something extremely simple that lets you click approve or reject, and then you'd see that the request has been approved in SharePoint if you take a look at that item that you created, and you would also receive a notification in email saying that the request was approved. We still have...
In that model, Flow will actually act as a web service to receive the response?
Exactly. Yeah.
Flow as a responder
Yeah.
for that type of
There are 4 parties in that scenario. There's Outlook, Flow, our middle tier, and SharePoint. Right? But it's all the same all the time. We're going to go very, very quickly over the last slides, 50 seconds. Roadmap, as I told you, we have Outlook coming extremely soon, and I promised that I would try to show you what it looks like. I do not know if it's going to work because they can actually see. So I'm not going to take an action here because that I know will not work just yet. There is a bug. But essentially, this is the card. It's not yet visually done. It's just functionally done. But you're going to get the exact same cards in the rich desktop client. Eventually, we'll even have that in the modern Outlook, which is the mail app that shipped with Windows 10. And to finish, although, of course, that's annoying. You didn't see it in Outlook because it was not on the screen. So let me show you. This is it. This is the card as seen in Outlook. Same layout, same everything, although here we can adjust the styles because it's completely up to the client to choose which styles actually match its overall visual language. So we're not stuck with the exact same visuals as in Outlook Web App. Each client can have something slightly different. You're going to see those things in Microsoft Teams very soon, and they will have, like the actions are going to look slightly different. I think they are going to represent them as actual buttons instead of blue links. So anyway, but the big deal is that it's always going to look great because you're not sending HTML or any design language. You're sending that simple payload that we have full control over. Roadmap, so Outlook coming later. Other clients soon. What else? Call to action, do it. Essentially, now that you know that it exists, implement actionable messages for your own business scenarios. That's what I've done here, everything that I've done here. It's already available in Office 365. You can go ahead and do it. There's nothing that you cannot do that I've shown you. We have samples on the web. You can get in touch with us if you need more samples. If it reaches me, I will be glad to try and help you. That
Actionable messages for use cases.
for use cases.
Yeah, because when we start out on a new product or a new, something new that we got to define.
Absolutely.
You might have an idea, but people around the world have many more.
Absolutely. So you can just, the moment you have a new idea for a new process, a new application, consider actionable messages, see how they could actually be an integral part of the solution. And if you already have existing solutions and you can see that something could be streamlined by just adding actionable message capabilities to it, seriously consider it. Again, it's really not that much more work on top of what already exists on your side. We're not asking you to completely redesign everything. We've tried to make this thing work so that it's as easy as possible to get into it, essentially. Right? That's all I have. I think you will have access to that deck with everything. And if we have a little time, you're free to ask questions. I don't know if we still have time. Anyway, thank you very much.